great to have Jim Herbert here. Jim comes from Orange. He works with the Rural Men's Health Organisation. That's about the best way I can say it. He's also working in South Australia with South Australian Men's Health. He's worked very closely with a very good friend of mine and a good friend to this whole, the men's and fathers movement, Greg Anderson, who can't be here today, sends his apologies. And we're well able, represented by Jim Herbert, who can well speak for both South Australia and rural men's health, which is very important. Thank you much, Jim.
Thank you, Warwick. Yes, I did move to Orange in New South Wales from South Australia last year, and I haven't quite gotten over the climate change yet. But I guess today I'm representing an organisation some of you may remember as the South Australian Men's Health Alliance, which has now become Men's Health SA. Of all the things that we could pick out to talk about in 3 minutes, one thing that's been a theme for our organisation since we began years ago, is this whole notion of blaming men and the negativity that comes with men's health promotion. Too often do we hear statements like, well, you know, if only men would go to the doctors, you know, if only men would take responsibility for their health. Only recently in central New South Wales we heard promotion about a men's health night, and you know, it's important, all you women out there, that you get the men along, because we know the men won't look after themselves. And that is something that I think is entirely unreasonable and should not be part of any future direction for men's health. To give you 2 quick stories about why I think this is so important. We looked at why men weren't accessing health services in the mid-north of South Australia a few years ago. 2 separate examples. I was talking to 2 22-year-old farmers in the Jamestown Hotel in the mid-north, and we asked that question, why don't you seek services? And the conversation was about general practice, going and seeing your doctor, but this applies to any health service. And you know what they said? Oh, geez, I don't want to get a finger up my bum. I said, guys, you're 22. What if I told you that that's not on the agenda? Oh, that'd be all right then. We've got 2 22-year-olds that don't understand that going to a doctor and getting a general health checkup at their age isn't necessarily going to involve a digital rectal exam. Why is that? Are they idiots? No, it's because nobody's ever taken the time to explain to them what they should expect when they go and see a doctor. Yeah, what do? We say they're too macho and they're too tough and they're too Australian male to go and see the doctor. No, it's just we haven't bothered to explain to them what to expect. Correct. The second example I'll give on the other end of the spectrum was a couple of old chaps at Peterborough, and I was asking them, why don't they see health services? And they said, son, go to the doctor and look around. The waiting room will be full of sick women, sick children and sick older people. That doctor comes up 2 days a week from the neighbouring town because we don't have a doctor that's in the town anymore. He said, there's nothing wrong with me. If I hurt my thumb or I fall off the tractor, I'll go and see the doctor, but there's nothing wrong with me, and you want me to go and talk to the doctor about my health when there's all this waiting room full of sick women, children and older people. I can't do that. I can't waste our community resource. Now, I would like him to go and see the doctor and get a general health checkup. It might save his life. But when we wave the finger and say that, you know, people have been too tough and too macho to go and see the doctor, I've never ever heard anybody say Australian men are too altruistic to go and see the doctor. Australian men are too concerned about a precious community resource to go and see the doctor themselves. We need to change the way we think about that. Men's health services need to be provided to men. There's too much talk about mainstreaming men's health services. Well, guess what? We've got mainstream men's health services and men aren't turning up. We need to do something different. Almost any other subpopulation we say, here's your subpopulation and here's the health service dedicated to you, in almost every aspect except for men. Men need to trust that when they turn up to a men's health service, that they understand men. They're there to serve men and they're going to understand the needs. If we don't offer them that, fail to see how they'll turn up. The last point I want to make around men's health is we do not need men's health policy or framework or resources or money or anything else because of women's health. We don't need it because there's an office for women's health. We don't need it because there's any other bureaucratic organisation. We need men's health because men are worth it. We should look to the women's health movement. Thanks. We should look to the women's health movement for the successes and the mistakes that they've made. We should look to them to replicate those successes. But we shouldn't look to the women's health movement to establish the need for a men's health movement. We should never do that. Just like Warwick said at the beginning, 4 to 1, the suicide rate in Australia, men to women. It's a terrible statistic. We've talked about it plenty of times and it's an important one for us to recognise. But it's a very, very good point. We shouldn't do it because it's 4 to 1. We should do it because almost 2,000 men die every year in Australia from suicide. That should be enough if it's in its own right, regardless of the ratio. Thank you.